I am the knave, Arlecchino, fourth of the Fatui Harbingers. The children of the House of the Hearth call me Father. I do hope our partnership proves to be a pleasant one, although I would imagine that should be fairly easy. After all, there's no cause for contention between us at the moment. Wouldn't you agree?
When the Fatui Harbinger trailer dropped, that showed us all the Harbingers. Arlecchino is the one that drove everyone to absolute degeneracy. Anywhere that you could go that commonly discusses Genshin Impact, including the comments of that video, basically sounded like the equivalent of you running up and down the hallways of an apartment building that allows dogs. If you've ever been in one, you know what I'm talking about. Now that in itself is nothing rare. Basically anytime any character gets revealed in Genshin Impact that is clearly an adult, people go absolutely feral for them, but there was something special about the feralness that Arlecchino invoked in everybody. And the whole time I was like, I don't really get it. Well, the Church of Arlecchino can rest easy because I'm a card-carrying member now with my C2R1. I wouldn't exactly call myself a simp, but I do love her enough to, well, let's just say that I took the money that I saved from Chiori and I put it into Arlecchino instead. I first thought, hey, you know what, I'll just use Jade Spear because it's pretty generic and it'll work pretty well on her because she wants field time. However, it only took maybe like 5 to 10 minutes of using it and enduring Christmas Chino before I was like, okay, I think I want to get the weapon. So one government issued Linny Bow and an uncomfortable amount of wishes later, I'm spared from having to go all the way to the Fate system and I get her weapon. Normally, I don't even really care if a character has a matching weapon, certainly not if it's their signature or not. Normally, I want it for power, but this time I'm really glad I got it because goddamn, it really looks cool in Arlecchino. I'm not even typically a big fan of scythes. They are generally low on my totem pole of weapons I want in games, but when it works, it just works. At this point in the game, we're pretty used to Harbingers getting a good amount of favoritism with their kits. Child is able to basically switch stances from one type of character to another, even though his bow side isn't really that useful. He still has it. Wanderer is just straight up able to fly for a short period of time, which is an amazing tool in not only combat, but also just overworld exploration. Then there's Arlecchino, who while in combat maybe doesn't look as unique in terms of functionality as Child and Wanderer, but she also kind of does. There's the more on-the-nose stuff, like the fact that she turns her signature into a scythe, or that she has her little special combat dash, which sadly isn't as good as I would have hoped it would be, but it is still neat that she has it. But it's a bunch of little things all together. It's her animations, it's her sound design, it's the fact that her charge attack is basically a little teleport that makes her feel very fluid in combat. Or, you know, maybe some pretty good evidence of that is the fact that she got 12 videos on their upload page, including a 7-minute long animated short. Really makes you wonder how much of this was planned or how much of this is in response to how insane the community went over her reveal. But anyway, a lot of melee characters can feel really bad in kind of spread out situations, but this unique charge attack that Arlecchino has, really, it helps that problem quite a bit and makes her feel a lot more satisfying to play. Then there's also something that's maybe a little bit less obvious on paper, and that is her very unique infusion. An infusion that looks like it's reliant on basically a 30-second cooldown sounds really bad, even if your burst does refresh it. But the thing about Arlecchino's infusion is that as long as she has a bond of life, so basically as long as you don't heal her out of combat to get rid of it, you're going to still have her infusion, even if you swap in and out of characters, which is amazing because so many characters lose their infusion, and or even worse, rely on something like an elemental burst to get their infusion, like in the case of Sino, a character that I do truly love, but I barely ever play him because he feels bad in so many situations. And even the characters that have really competitively low infusions like Ayato or Hu Tao or Wanderer still end up feeling so much worse than Arlecchino does in the overworld just because of how strong she is just on her own. She doesn't need to press a button every time she engages a small group of enemies. As long as she has her bond of life, she's going to be strong enough to just massacre everything. Which is also one of the reasons why I wanted her weapon. Her weapon gives her even more bond of life and helps just make her easier to play. It wasn't just a damage increase or some of the most insane drip we've ever seen on a character, it was borderline quality of life when you play her. And it's for that reason that if I were to rank all the signature weapons that I've got for various characters that I own, that Arlecchino's would probably be among the top, if not the very top spot. This next thing is going to, a lot of you are going to be like, what the hell do you care about this in the first place? But it's big for me. And her idle animations, yeah, they're cool and all. Beautiful animations, the chair, the glitch, love them. But what I like about them the most is the fact that 2 out of 3 of them are not voiced, including this chair, which she will sit on for, hold on a sec, let me find out. Literally over an entire minute of just silence. So with the glitch animation also not having any voice lines related to it, at least not right now, it's possible for her to go through a long cycle without ever actually getting to her one voiced idle animation. I also just learned that they actually implemented a mute when minimized button for Genshin in the audio settings. This has apparently been in the game since 4.1, and yet I've never heard anyone mention it, and I guess I just didn't read those patch notes. But oh well, I still appreciate that her idle voice lines are pretty chill, and it's not just repeating the same thing over and over. But the single most important thing about Arlecchino is that I finally have a pyro DPS that I actually enjoy using. Like seriously, of all of these characters, most of which can be played in DPS roles, none of them I really enjoy playing. It's kind of crazy. Realistically, most people are only going to recognize like maybe Linny, Hu Tao, and Yoimiya as actual options here. And I absolutely see the point because those are really the only ones I would consider using in the Abyss, because anyone else is mostly going to be carried by overwhelmingly powerful supports. Like you can absolutely put Klee in a party with Farina, Yelan, and Bennett, and they'll do great, but that's because those three characters will do great without Klee. Now I don't have to think like, hey, do I feel like playing Hu Tao, because I am already bored to death of her. Like her playstyle lost its luster for me a long time ago. Yoimiya can be kind of fun, but as far as auto attack spammers go, she definitely gets the most stale out of everybody because she literally just stands in a circle, mostly Bennett's circle, and just holds down her auto attack button. And that can absolutely be fun, but I don't think standing in a circle doing a kind of clunky feeling auto attack is the right way to do it. I'd much rather play something like Ayato, but he's not exactly a pyro character. In fact, he is the exact opposite, and I have way too much Hydro going on these days. So usually whenever I look for a team for the other side, it's usually filled with like Sino or Alhaitham. And even the times where it really does look like it needs a pyro character, I try to avoid it at all costs because there was just nobody I wanted to use. But again, this is where Arlecchino comes in because she is solving a lot of my own personal problems. One, she is finally not only a pyro DPS that I am actually excited to use, but she is extremely powerful feeling so far. I only have her at 766 talents. That is a lot of room for improvement. Two, she is extremely flexible. Her base damage is so incredibly high that you can play mono pyro and it actually feels pretty damn good. And if you have Chevreuse, you can also play Overload. You could probably play it without her, but I really wouldn't recommend it because Overload is a kind of janky reaction. Knocking things around lowers your DPS. You really need an overwhelming support like Chevreuse to make it worth it. And seriously, mono pyro is pretty damn impressive. Even with just using Kazuha and a Zhongli shield, you are capable of getting some pretty damn good numbers out of it. Once again, an Arlecchino that's not even finished yet. She still has several talent levels to go on every talent and a best in slot artifact set to farm. Then of course, if you actually utilize your Bennett and don't just Kazuha, you're going to get much more impressive numbers than before. And for a brain dead team that takes obviously no skill to pilot because the mono team, you're doing really damn good numbers on auto attacks. I really can't wait to see how crazy that gets when she's actually fully built with her proper artifact set and not gladiators. Best of all, she's made my two Abyss teams feel so good together. Now there's definitely something to be said about there maybe being a little bit too much Hydro going on, given that Nouvelette's team is a mono Hydro team, and this team also has two heavy hitters doing Hydro damage. When something is immune to the Hydro damage, Arlecchino still hits hard enough that just her and Zhongli can get the job done. You know, not to mention the fact that Yelan is still buffing Arlecchino's damage. I used these two teams for every single floor in this current Abyss that would have just passed as this video airing, and it felt great. Of course, whenever a new DPS comes out, one of these are probably going to get swapped out, and that's usually going to be the Arlecchino side. I may love her kit, and she may very well be the single best pyro character that they've released ever. Nouvelette is still my favorite character. I never get tired of pressure washing everything to death and just sticking the middle finger to the horrible auto-aim system that Genshin subjects us all to. But even so, that's just the Abyss. When it comes to the overworld, I am probably going to use Arlecchino for almost everything. Her infusion and just pure raw power are unrivaled in terms of how good they are at just moving from pack to pack and just slaughtering everything. And while this certainly is not a should you pull for or like how good is Arlecchino video, is more just me gushing about just how much I really like this character and how much she surprised me. If you were on the fence about it, I could not give her a higher recommendation. Even at C0 with a Jade Spear, she felt very, very good. Her first two constellations are by no means required. This is definitely not a Hu Tao situation. They front load her damage and they make her a lot more smooth to play, especially in the initial start of her rotation. Her signature weapon is pretty huge and she has a really easy artifact set in the Gladiator set. It's not her best in slot, but it will do you for a very long time. Hell, you could probably even stay on Gladiator forever without losing a whole lot of DPS, and you don't have to worry about farming a new domain that may not be resin efficient for you. But ultimately, you know, you do you. Most of you were decided the moment you laid eyes on her in her trailer. Well, not even her trailer, just the Fatui Harbinger trailer, which she just happened to be a part of. Which in that case, I hope you've been having as much fun with her as I have. So thank you to you for watching, thank you to my members and patrons for supporting me as always, and I'll see you in the next one.
Attaboy!